What did you witness at midnight? Nestled on the outskirts of the sleepy town of Gravewood, the forgotten cemetery had always been a source of morbid curiosity and whispered rumors among the townsfolk. It was a place where the gravestones leaned heavily with age, and the names of those interred had been eroded by time, leaving behind only the echo of lives once lived. Compelled by a fascination with the paranormal and armed with little more than a lantern and a daring spirit, I ventured into this somber realm as the clock told midnight, the moon casting a silvery glow over the moss-covered markers. The air was thick with mist, a shroud that seemed to cloak the cemetery in secrecy and silence. As I meandered through the rows of ancient tombstones, my footsteps muffled by the soft earth, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, though I was certain I was alone in this necropolis of forgotten souls. It was then that I stumbled upon it, a grave unlike any other in the cemetery, marked by a statue of an angel whose face was twisted in a grimace of horror, its hands covering its eyes as if to shield itself from some unseen terror. The inscription on the tombstone was still legible, a rarity in this place of neglect. Here lies Jonathan Harrow, whose sins followed him to the grave. Curiosity piqued, I shone my lantern closer, intending to examine the grave further. That's when I heard the soft, sorrowful weeping, a sound so full of anguish and despair that it chilled me to the bone. The weeping seemed to emanate from the ground itself, rising up from the very earth that held Jonathan Harrow's remains. Frozen in place, I watched in horror as the ground before the grave began to shift and stir, the earth churning as if something beneath was struggling to break free. The air grew colder, a frost that bit at my flesh despite the mild night, and the mist thickened, swirling around the grave in an otherworldly dance. And then they appeared, apparitions, spectral figures that emerged from the mist, their forms indistinct and shimmering in the moonlight. They circled the grave, their faces contorted in expressions of agony and betrayal, reaching out toward the statue as if in accusation. These were the souls that had been wronged by Jonathan Harrow, bound to the site of his burial by the weight of his sins and their desire for vengeance. As I stood there, a witness to this ghastly spectacle, the weeping ceased abruptly, and the apparitions turned to face me, their hollow eyes boring into mine. A voice, ethereal and filled with sorrow, spoke directly into my mind. "Leave this place and speak not of what you have seen, for some truths are too terrible for the living to bear." With a heart pounding in terror, I heeded the warning, fleeing the forgotten cemetery as the apparitions faded back into the mist, leaving behind only the haunting memory of their pain and the grimace of the angelic statue, a silent guardian of a grave best left undisturbed. To this day, the sight that greeted me in the forgotten cemetery at midnight remains etched in my memory, a chilling reminder of the past's power to reach through the veil of death and touch the living, and the grave secrets that lie buried in the heart of Gravewood.